Welcome back to the shed. It's been a while. Today I'm going to start working on my ulterior motor transport. This is a little Honda today. I've had this thing for a while and it's hilarious amounts of fun because it's so tiny. It's like riding a BMX with a bit of petrol coming out of it. So the story is I bought this and it was stolen, recovered, had a dead motor. So I put a Honda lead motor in it, which is 100cc, which is 50cc up from what it is standard. And just recently, this motor has developed a few problems, mostly with the generator, electrical sort of stuff. And basically, man, I can't get parts for it. So that's pretty unfortunate. So I had a bit of an idea and I've sort of looked around and did some research, and what I've ended up doing is I've bought one of these. Now this is hilariously another scooter with another swap. This is an Aprilia SR50 and this has had Aprilia Habana drivetrain put into it, but it's also the same cantilever pivot sort of system that the Honda uses. So what the deal will be to take this drivetrain out and put it into the Honda. Yeah, I'm into scooters and stuff. It's they're pretty fun. So this thing has disc brakes. I'm going to convert the disc brakes and pretty much the whole drivetrain. So the first step was getting the electrics out. And as you can see, I've laid the electrics out. I've marked all of the important stuff from the front, like the handlebars, all the way down to the tail and all the lights and where the CDI plugs in and the generator and all that sort of stuff. And much like a car, I'm going to make this into a conversion harness and basically take out all the stuff that I don't require and then overlay it into the Honda stuff, and then we've got a conversion harness and it will plug into the motor and plug into the chassis, which is also how I wire all the cars that I wire as well. So first thing is to strip this bad boy. You'd do it too if you could. So yeah, basically that pivot bolt and this suspension eye is what holds the whole drivetrain in. So to disconnect it, you pretty much just disconnect the fuel lines from the tank there, and obviously I've pulled all the electrics off already, and do that, and the whole thing drops out and you're just left with a big frame. Basically, this thing runs 14-inch wheels, so I'm probably not going to run the 14-inch wheels. I do have a 10-inch wheel off the Habana that fits on the back here, so that'll match my Honda 10-inch wheel like on the front, but I do hope to change to 12-inch on the front at some point, and then I can like put disc brakes on the Honda and stuff and make it somewhat safer. But this will definitely have a lot more brakes on the rear, because the drum on this is about twice the size of the Honda one. So now that it's out, may as well give it a good old clean. Here's what the Honda looks like stripped. So you can see it's quite a bit smaller than the other thing, and so I've just saved you the trouble of watching me having to pull the panels off this. I've taken all the panels off because like this thing has really nice panels. When I bought this scooter, I bought new panels because the thing was like absolutely trashed, and so all the wiring is still intact on this thing as well. And I've just got to sort of same deal, like remove this bolt here and the one underneath, and the whole scooter will lift up, and we'll be left with just the basic frame. And then the fun stuff starts, and we'll have to size everything up. So hopefully the brake attachment here will sort of be compatible, because that would be really, really cool. I don't need to worry about my fancy stand that puts the scooter on an angle and makes me look badass, because the Aprilia one has a little bracket that goes on the underneath of the motor. So yeah, I'll probably modify that to be cool as well. So yeah, I'll just strip this one of all its bits, and well, we'll start from there. Alrighty, now that this motor's free, basically what I need is this part here. So this part fits into the chassis over here. So I just have to make that part adapt to that motor, and yeah, it will like push straight in. And then I just have to sort out the suspension, and that's pretty much it. Mechanically, it's yeah, it's really easy. All right, so I've got the motor kind of mocked up where it needs to be, and I've got this pivot arm. I'm not too sure what it's called, and this is the way it goes. And what I've discovered is that the place that the motor needs to be the right length is exactly the right distance from this hole to that hole. And these bushes almost fit in there, and it would fit widthwise. So all I'm going to do is trim these bushes down and see if this hole meets up with this. I'm going to have to trim the width of this down a little bit to make it the width of the Honda. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Luckily that bush goes all the way through. I really doubt this camera's going to pick it up, but the bush does go all the way through. So I'm just going to try and trim it down and see if I can actually just fit that. That might actually just work. Alrighty, so I've got the piece right here. I trimmed it down and trimmed a little bit sort of off the edges, and trimmed that rubber. So essentially what happens is that goes in that slot, pushes in there, but the holes don't really line up. So this guy's hitting here, so I'll just trim a bit off that and our holes should line up. No dramas. I am excited, Moira. Oh yeah, awesome. So now I just have to connect the motor to this and then see if the suspension fits. Alright, so this is the Today shock that I was running before. See, I modified this to fit on the lead. So this hoop fits that, but this doesn't quite fit it. So I've got the standard Habana shock here, and I thought, oh yeah, why the hell not? So that will stay in. This actually fits in there, and it fits the suspension there, but there's a little tab here that's not too good, so I'm just going to knock that off. Oh yeah! So now it's pretty much ready to, I can put it on its stand and like sort of get it on the ground. And then I can start everyone's favorite job, wiring. Alright, so wiring is not as hard as people think. People think it's hard, so they make it hard for themselves. So I used to be scared of wiring, and I used to go, oh my god, no wires, they're all different colors and it looks like spaghetti and now it makes me hungry. But you know, you do one wire at a time and it's you can't really go wrong. So what I've got to do is pull all this wiring off and basically extract out of this harness what I need to operate the Honda as far as the lights and the indicators and everything goes, and the connection to the battery, and all the rest is just, you know, it just doesn't need to be there. And then what I need to do is get the other harness and extract out of the other harness what I need to run the motor, and then I just sort of overlay them together and match up the power circuit. So I'll definitely need power out of the ignition, and so I'll just tee out of there and get the power I need. So when I wire the other harness, I'll break it down into basically a couple of grounds, because these scooters have some sort of issue with grounds and stuff, and one power wire, and all I'll have to hook is the ground and power, and the motor should run realistically. So I'm going to start by just getting the trusty wire loom splitter and just basically take all the tape off. Now this has already had a conversion done. This wiring harness has been modified before, so it's a bit simplified. But I'll tell you what, if anyone's ever played with a Honda today, the wiring, wait till this bike goes past, the wiring harness will change colours and change gauge and do all kinds of weird things. A lot of power is black, and some power is orange, and some power is yellow, and it's got green there, and it's got a lot of sort of weird stuff going on. And so if what I'm doing makes you nervous, then you'll just give it a go, and sort of you'll get over it. So I wire cars now completely from scratch, and you know, you can have the whole lot going, all the power circuits and all the indicators and all those nice little things that make it a car, like, you know, like headlights and things like that. Just don't make it hard for yourself when you're thinking about it. Just do one step at a time, and that's the easiest way to understand like how to do wiring. Don't get confused with like all the different colours and things like that. It's not worth getting frustrated over. Keen eyes would have noticed that I had the drive cover off. That was so I could service the variator. Now, if you're not familiar with what this thing does, it uses these rollers and they fit into these slots. And when this spins up, these move over and it pushes this into a different spot and squeezes the belt. there's lots of information on variators and stuff like that. So that's about all I'm going to say about that. But this variator was really super gummed up with stuff. Someone had tried to lubricate it with wet lubricant, and that's a no-no for variators because they need to be able to move around. If you're going to lubricate a variator, you need to use like graphite powder or something like that. Nothing wet, because like all the stuff that actually comes off these rollers, if you'll sort of see this one, they can sort of go flat if they get jammed up, and these rollers have definitely suffered that fate. Now, what I'm going to do is, so with the centrifugal force needed to move these is a lot more with a heavier roller than a lighter roller. So if I weigh these, this is 12 grams. So if I lighten these rollers, it'll pick up on the belt a lot quicker, and the acceleration will be quicker, and it'll get off the line a lot quicker. So what I'm going to do is just get a drill bit and drill the center out of these and lighten them. Alrighty, so I've laid pretty much all the wiring in and sort of routed it where it sort of needs to go. I've got this stuff here is from the engine, and this stuff here is for the chassis. So I've got the starter, I've got the ground, fuse battery supply, and the ignition on. And I've got over here, I've got all of those on this one. So all I need to do is terminate a plug, and then I'll be able to hook this harness into this harness, and yeah, I'll have a good modular solution.